Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and a huge thank you to all the coin lovers, treasure hunters, history fans, and curious minds who tune in every single time, because today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and controversial stories in modern numismatics, a story that proves that even a humble penny in your pocket could be hiding a fortune beyond imagination. Because in this video we are talking about the legendary 1982 1 cent that has been rumored, discussed, analyzed, debated, and hunted for decades, a penny that under the right conditions, with the right errors, the right metal, and the right combination of minting mistakes, could theoretically reach an astonishing value of up to $15 million, and before you dismiss that as impossible or exaggerated, stay with me, because once you understand the unique historical timing of 1982, the dramatic metal transition that happened that year, the chaos inside the mint, the experimental strikes, the wrong planchets, the double dies, the off-metal errors, the weight anomalies, and the survival of ultra-rare transitional mistakes, you will realize why collectors, investors, and auction houses consider 1982 one of the most dangerous and exciting years for Lincoln cents ever produced, and why people still check every single 1982 penny they come across. Because unlike many rare coins locked away in museums, some of these errors could still be out there hiding in circulation, sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, or inherited collections, and that possibility alone is enough to keep the dream alive. So let's begin by setting the stage for what made 1982 so special, because this was not an ordinary year for the United States Mint. This was a year of crisis, inflation, metal shortages, and rapid decision-making. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, the price of copper skyrocketed due to global demand and economic instability, and by 1981 the intrinsic metal value of a traditional copper penny was dangerously close to, and sometimes even exceeding, its face value, which meant the government was literally losing money every time it minted a cent, and that created a huge problem, because the penny was still needed for commerce, but producing it from nearly pure copper was becoming unsustainable, so the mint was forced to act fast, experimenting with alternatives, testing compositions, and preparing for one of the most dramatic transitions in U.S. coinage history, and that transition officially happened in 1982, when the mint switched from the traditional 95% copper alloy planchet, which had been used for decades, to a new zinc-based planchet with a thin copper coating, making the coin cheaper to produce. But here's where things get incredibly interesting, because 1982 was not a clean cut. It was not a simple switch from one metal to another on January 1st, instead it was a messy, overlapping, confusing process that involved multiple compositions being struck at the same time, different mints working through old stock, new stock, experimental batches, and emergency production schedules, and as a result, 1982 Lincoln cents exist in more variations than almost any other single year in U.S. penny history, including large date and small date designs, copper planchets and zinc planchets, Philadelphia and Denver mint strikes, proof issues, and unknown experimental pieces, and when you combine all of that with human error, mechanical failure, die fatigue, and rushed production, you get the perfect storm for ultra-rare mint errors that can be worth life-changing money. One of the most important foundations for the $15 million valuation is the existence of transitional errors, and if you are new to coin collecting, a transitional error happens when a coin is struck using the wrong metal or design intended for a different year or different production standard, and in the case of 1982, the most famous transitional error is the 1982 D copper cent, because according to official mint records, Denver was supposed to strike only zinc cents in 1982, while Philadelphia struck both copper and zinc early in the year, but multiple authenticated examples of 1982 D cents struck on copper planchets have been discovered, proving that some leftover copper blanks were accidentally fed into the presses at the Denver Mint, and these coins should not exist at all, which immediately makes them extremely rare. But rarity alone is not what pushes values into the millions. What pushes values that high is a combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, pristine condition, and market demand. And now imagine this scenario: a previously unknown 1982 D copper cent surfaces, not just any example, but one with additional errors such as a double die obverse, a dramatic off-center strike, or a broad strike with full details, and on top of that it grades at the very top of the scale in mint state condition, essentially flawless, never circulated, with perfect surfaces, sharp details, and original luster. Such a coin would represent a once-in-a-generation discovery, and collectors and institutions would fight fiercely to own it, potentially driving the price into the multi-million-dollar range, because the value of a coin is not just about metal or age, it is about the story it tells. And a coin like that tells the story of a nation in economic transition, a mint under pressure, and a mistake that slipped through the cracks and survived against all odds. Another critical factor that feeds into the $15 million possibility is the large date versus small date variation in 1982, and this might sound minor to casual observers, but to collectors it is everything. The difference between a large date and small date 1982 penny lies in the shape and size of the numerals in the date, especially the 2, which appears sharper and more curved on the small date, and these variations were created because the mint used different master dies during the year, and once again, when multiple dies are used alongside multiple metal compositions, the potential for mismatched combinations increases dramatically, and this is where things get truly wild, because there are known combinations that exist and are documented, and then there are combinations that theoretically could exist but have not yet been confirmed, and in the world of high-end numismatics, a theoretical rarity that eventually gets confirmed can explode in value overnight. For example, if a 1982 D small date copper cent were to be discovered, it would instantly become one of the most important modern US coins ever found, because experts believe that combination should not exist at all, and while some claims have been made, none have been conclusively authenticated so far, but the possibility remains. And collectors know that it only takes one genuine example to rewrite the history books, and if such a coin were found in exceptional condition, the bidding wars would be unprecedented, potentially reaching or even exceeding $15 million, because at that level, you are not just buying a coin, you are buying a unique artifact, a singular object that no museum or private collection currently possesses, and wealthy collectors pay enormous premiums for that level of exclusivity. Beyond transitional errors, 1982 is also a hotspot for dramatic die errors, because the mint was pushing equipment hard to meet production demands, which leads to things like double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, cuts, and misalignments, and while many minor examples exist, a major double die with strong doubling visible to the naked eye on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering, combined with the wrong metal composition, would be an absolute monster in the collecting world, because double dies are created during the die-making process, not during the strike, which means every coin struck from that die will show the doubling, but if the die was caught early and replaced quickly, the number of coins produced could be extremely small, and when you combine that scarcity with a transitional metal error, you get a level of rarity that defies standard price guides, and price guides simply cannot account for unique or near-unique coins. Those are valued through private negotiation and auction psychology, where emotions, prestige, and competition play massive roles. Another layer that adds to the mystique of the 1982 cent is the existence of off-metal strikes, which occur when a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition is accidentally struck with the cent design, and while off-metal errors are known in other years, the chaos of 1982 increases the odds that unusual planchets were present in the minting environment. Imagine a 1982 cent struck on a foreign planchet, or on a planchet intended for a different US coin, or even on an experimental alloy that was being tested but never officially released. Such a coin would raise immediate questions, spark intense research, and attract global attention, and if confirmed as genuine and unique, its value would be essentially unlimited, because collectors would be bidding on something that exists outside normal classification systems. And that is exactly the kind of scenario where 8-figure prices become realistic. Condition also plays a massive role, because while many errors exist in circulated condition, a $15 million coin would almost certainly need to be in near-perfect mint state, ideally with full original luster, no corrosion, no cleaning, no damage, and sharp strikes, and that is what makes the hunt so difficult, because zinc cents in particular are prone to corrosion once the thin copper plating is damaged. Next, 2013 1-cent coin. Everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the passionate coin collectors, rare coin hunters, history lovers, and curious viewers who join us every single time to explore the hidden secrets of everyday money, because today's story proves once again that even a modern coin you might overlook without a second thought can potentially be worth a fortune beyond imagination. And in this video we are diving deep into the astonishing, controversial, and highly debated topic of the 2013 1 cent, a penny that under extremely rare and specific circumstances, due to extraordinary minting errors, production mistakes, experimental anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime combinations of factors, has been rumored and theorized to reach a staggering value of up to $14 million, and while that number may sound unbelievable for such a recent coin, stay with me from start to finish, because once you understand how modern minting works, how errors still occur despite advanced technology, how transitional metals, wrong planchets, double dies, mule strikes, and undocumented test pieces can slip through even in the 21st century, and how the rare coin market values uniqueness above all else, you will see why experts, collectors, and investors do not completely dismiss the possibility, and why people around the world still examine their 2013 pennies carefully, hoping to discover something extraordinary hiding in plain sight, because the story of the 2013 cent is not just about metal and mistakes, it is about probability, timing, human oversight, and the incredible reality that perfection in mass production is still impossible, even today. To truly understand why a 2013 1 cent could ever be linked to a $14 million valuation, we must first understand the environment in which it was produced, because by 2013 the United States Mint was operating at a massive scale, striking billions of coins each year using high-speed presses, automated feeding systems, and computer-controlled quality checks. Yet even with all this technology, the mint still relies on physical materials, human oversight, and complex mechanical processes, and whenever you combine speed, volume, and machinery, errors are inevitable, and while most errors are minor and common, occasionally something goes catastrophically wrong in a way that creates a coin so rare, so unusual, and so unexpected that it defies normal classification and becomes a numismatic legend. The 2013 Lincoln cent was struck primarily on zinc planchets with a thin copper plating, a composition that has been used since 1982, but what many people do not realize is that the mint continues to experiment with alternative metals, coatings, and production methods behind the scenes to improve durability, reduce costs, and test future possibilities. And these experiments often involve test planchets, trial strikes, and limited internal batches that are never meant to leave the mint, yet. History has shown again and again that some of these experimental pieces do escape, either through accidental mixing, human error, or oversight during disposal, and when that happens, the resulting coin instantly becomes one of the rarest objects in modern American coinage. One of the most important foundations of the $14 million theory is the possibility of a 2013 cent struck on the wrong metal, particularly on a solid copper planchet, a bronze alloy, aluminum, steel, or even a foreign planchet, because the value of wrong planchet errors increases exponentially when the metal was never authorized for that denomination or year. And if such a coin were proven to exist, especially if it were unique or one of only a handful known, its value would not be limited by price guides or previous sales, but instead determined by high-end private negotiations and competitive auctions among elite collectors. Imagine a verified 2013 penny struck on a pre-1982 copper planchet weighing approximately 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams, with full original surfaces, sharp strike, and no post-mint damage. Such a coin would immediately raise alarms across the numismatic world, because it would mean that an obsolete planchet somehow survived decades after its official discontinuation and was fed into a modern press, a scenario considered nearly impossible yet not entirely outside the realm of reality, because mint facilities are vast, complex, and constantly evolving, and small quantities of old materials have surfaced before in other years. Even more astonishing would be a 2013 cent struck on a steel planchet, similar to the famous 1943 steel cents, or on an aluminum test planchet, which the mint has experimented with multiple times throughout history but never officially released for circulation, and if a 2013 aluminum cent were discovered, authenticated, and confirmed as a genuine mint error rather than a privately altered piece, it would instantly become one of the most important modern U.S. coins ever found, because aluminum cents have a long, mysterious, and controversial history in American coinage, and a modern example would represent a secret chapter in that story, one that collectors and institutions would pay extraordinary sums to own. Another major contributor to the potential $14 million valuation is the possibility of a mule error, which occurs when a coin is struck using mismatched dies intended for different denominations or designs, and while mule errors are extremely rare, they are among the most valuable and sought-after errors in existence, because they represent a fundamental breakdown in the minting process. And if a 2013 Lincoln cent were struck with a cent obverse and an entirely different reverse, or even a reverse intended for another denomination, it would instantly become a numismatic sensation, especially if the pairing was previously unknown, because mule errors challenge our understanding of mint controls and die handling procedures, and their rarity often approaches unique status. Die errors also play a critical role in the story of the 2013 cent, because even in modern times, dies are subject to wear, misalignment, hubbing mistakes, and catastrophic failure, and while minor double dies exist across many years, a dramatic double die obverse or reverse from 2013 showing strong, unmistakable doubling across Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering would already be valuable, but if that double die were combined with another major error such as a wrong planchet, off-center strike, or broad strike, the resulting coin would be in a class of its own, because compound errors are exponentially rarer than single errors, and collectors prize them for their visual impact and complexity. Consider the scenario of a 2013 double die cent struck on an experimental planchet, fully centered, with bold details and pristine surfaces. Such a coin would be studied, photographed, written about, and debated endlessly, and its eventual appearance at auction would trigger intense competition, because collectors know that opportunities to acquire such pieces may never come again. Another factor that cannot be ignored is the role of strike anomalies, such as multiple strikes, rotated dies, or extreme off-center strikes, and while many off-center coins exist, an extreme off-center 2013 cent that still shows a full date and mint details, combined with another major error, would be exceptionally rare, because most coins that are struck that far off-center are rejected and destroyed during quality control, yet occasionally one slips through, and when it does, it becomes a tangible example of how even advanced inspection systems are not perfect. Condition is another crucial element, because while many errors survive in circulated condition, a coin valued in the millions must be in exceptional shape, ideally mint state with no signs of wear, corrosion, or cleaning, and this is particularly challenging for zinc-based cents, which are highly vulnerable to environmental damage once the copper plating is compromised. Yet that vulnerability also adds to the rarity of pristine examples, because so few survive unscathed over time, and a perfect or near-perfect 2013 error cent would be a true survivor, preserved against the odds. Beyond physical characteristics, the market dynamics of rare coins play a massive role in determining value, because high-end numismatics is driven not just by rarity, but by demand, prestige, and storytelling, and the Lincoln cent is one of the most iconic coins in American history, instantly recognizable and emotionally resonant across generations, which means that any extraordinary Lincoln cent, especially one from a modern year, attracts attention far beyond the traditional collector base. Drawing interest from investors, museums, and even people who do not normally collect coins but are fascinated by the idea that a simple penny could be worth millions. The $14 million figure is not meant to suggest that every 2013 penny is valuable, or even that such a coin has already been publicly sold for that amount, but rather that under the most extreme and perfect circumstances, a unique or near-unique example could theoretically reach that level due to competitive bidding among ultra-wealthy collectors, and history supports this possibility. Because time and time again, coins that were once thought impossible or insignificant have shattered expectations once a truly unprecedented example surfaced. Media attention also plays a powerful role, because in the modern digital age, a discovery like a unique 2013 error cent would spread instantly across social media, YouTube, news outlets, and collector forums, creating a frenzy of interest that amplifies demand and drives prices higher. Next, 2014 D1 cent coin, and a warm welcome to all the passionate coin collectors, curious treasure hunters, everyday pocket change checkers, and history lovers who know that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the biggest secrets, because today we are diving deep into a story that sounds unbelievable at first but becomes more fascinating the more you understand it, the story of the 2014 D1 cent, a modern Lincoln penny that under extremely rare and extraordinary circumstances, driven by minting errors, production mistakes, transitional anomalies, and near impossible combinations of flaws, has the theoretical potential to be worth up to $13 million, and while most people would never give a second glance to a penny from 2014, numismatists know that modern coins are not immune to dramatic errors, and in some cases those errors are even more significant because they occur in an era of advanced technology where mistakes are supposed to be impossible, which makes any confirmed anomaly far more shocking, far more valuable, and far more desirable, and that is exactly why the idea of a $13 million 2014 D penny captures so much attention, because it challenges the assumption that only old coins can be valuable, and it reminds us that rarity is not about age alone, it is about circumstances, survival, and the story behind the strike. So to truly understand how a 2014 D1 cent could reach such a staggering value, we first need to understand the environment in which it was made, because by 2014 the United States Mint was producing billions of cents every year, operating high-speed presses, automated quality control systems, and standardized zinc planchets with copper plating, and in theory this should eliminate major errors, but in reality, high-volume production creates its own risks, because when something does go wrong, it can go wrong in spectacular ways, especially if a defective die, a wrong planchet, or a misaligned press runs unnoticed even briefly, and the Denver Mint, marked by the D Mint mark, is one of the largest producers of circulating coinage, meaning that any anomaly originating there carries enormous significance, and one of the most important foundations of the $13 million valuation lies in the concept of wrong planchet and off-metal errors. Because although the standard 2014 cent is struck on a zinc core with a thin copper coating, the mint handles planchets for many denominations and sometimes even foreign contracts, and history has shown that planchets can and do get mixed, leading to cent struck on bronze planchets, copper-nickel planchets, or even experimental alloys, and while such errors are rare, they are not impossible, and if a 2014 D cent were discovered struck on a solid copper planchet matching the pre-1982 composition, or on a foreign or experimental alloy never intended for circulation, it would instantly become one of the most important modern error coins ever found, because it would represent a breakdown in one of the most controlled stages of minting, and that alone would place it into elite rarity territory. But to reach 8 figures, the error would likely need to go even further, combining off-metal composition with additional dramatic flaws, such as a double die obverse or reverse, which occurs during the die creation process when the hub impresses the design multiple times at slightly different angles, resulting in visible doubling on the date, lettering, and Lincoln's features, and while minor doubling is common, a strong double die with clear separation is extremely rare in modern sense, because dies are closely monitored and replaced quickly, but if such a die slipped through and struck a small number of coins, and one of those coins was also struck on the wrong metal, the rarity multiplies exponentially, because now you are dealing with two independent and highly improbable errors occurring together on a single coin. And this is where the math of rarity starts to break down, because traditional population estimates no longer apply, and the coin becomes essentially unique, and uniqueness is the foundation of multi-million-dollar valuations. Another powerful factor is the possibility of transitional or experimental errors tied to changes in minting processes. Because while the basic composition of the cent did not officially change in 2014, the mint was continuously experimenting with plating techniques, die coatings, and efficiency improvements, and experimental planchets or test strikes can exist outside official records, and if a 2014 D cent were discovered struck on an experimental alloy or with an experimental surface treatment, it would raise enormous interest among researchers and collectors, because it would provide physical evidence of behind-the-scenes testing at the mint. And coins that reveal hidden chapters of mint history often command extraordinary prices, especially when documentation is scarce or non-existent, because the coin itself becomes the primary historical record. Beyond composition, strike errors also play a crucial role in extreme valuations, and 2014 D cents are known for occasional misstrikes, but imagine a perfect storm scenario where a cent is struck dramatically off-center while still retaining a full date and mint mark, or struck as a broad strike with expanded diameter and sharp details, or even struck multiple times with rotation between strikes, creating a visually stunning and unmistakable error. And while such coins already carry premiums, when combined with wrong metal or double die characteristics, they become something entirely different, something that transcends typical error categories and enters the realm of legendary pieces. And then there is the condition factor, because condition is everything at the highest levels of collecting, and a $13 million coin would almost certainly need to be in near perfect mint state, with no post-mint damage, no corrosion, no cleaning, and full original luster. And this is especially challenging for modern zinc cents, because once the copper plating is breached, corrosion can begin quickly, so a wrong metal error struck on a more stable alloy would have a much better chance of surviving in pristine condition, and survival is often overlooked, because many rare errors are destroyed, spent, or damaged before anyone realizes what they are, so the few that survive intact become exponentially more valuable. Another layer that adds to the potential valuation is the role of die variety specific to the Denver Mint in 2014, because die chips, die breaks, and cuts can create dramatic raised features on coins, and while many are minor, a major retained cut or interior die break that alters Lincoln's portrait or the lettering in a bold and unmistakable way can be extremely desirable, and again, when combined with other rare attributes, the value escalates rapidly. And we must also consider the role of mule errors, which occur when mismatched dies are paired together, such as a cent obverse with a reverse intended for a different denomination or design, and while mule errors are among the rarest of all mint mistakes, they are not unheard of, and a confirmed 2014 D cent mule would send shockwaves through the numismatic world, because it would demonstrate a catastrophic breakdown in die handling procedures, and if such a mule also involved an off-metal strike or experimental planchet, it would likely be unique, and unique coins occupy a special category where price is determined not by guides but by desire, prestige, and competition. And speaking of competition, the high-end coin market is driven by a relatively small number of extremely wealthy collectors and institutions who are constantly seeking the next great rarity, and for them, money is less important than ownership, legacy, and recognition, and a unique modern rarity like a legendary 2014 D error cent would offer all three, because it would be instantly recognizable, endlessly discussed, and historically significant, and museums would want it, private collectors would want it, and investors would want it, and when multiple parties want the same unique object, the price can escalate beyond what most people think is possible, especially in high-profile auctions where publicity amplifies excitement, and modern media plays a huge role here, because a discovery like this would spread rapidly across YouTube, social media, news outlets, and collector forums, creating a frenzy of attention that attracts bidders who might not even be traditional coin collectors but want to own a piece of viral history, and that broadens the buyer base dramatically. Another important aspect is certification and authentication, because for a coin to reach a valuation anywhere near $13 million, it would need to be examined and authenticated by top grading services and independent experts, including metallurgical testing, dye analysis, and production research, and while this process is intense, it also adds credibility and confidence, which encourages aggressive bidding, and once a coin is certified as unique or one of a kind, its status is locked in, and the market treats it accordingly, and we have seen time and again that once a coin achieves legendary status, its value becomes self-reinforcing, because ownership confers prestige, and prestige drives demand, and demand drives price, and this is why even a modern coin like a 2014 cent can theoretically reach 8 figures under the right conditions, because rarity is not limited by time, it is created by mistakes, chance, and survival, and the most exciting part of this story is that such a coin, if it exists, could still be out there, because modern coins circulate widely. Next, 1996 1-cent coin. Everyone, and a warm welcome to all the passionate coin collectors, curious treasure hunters, long-time subscribers, and first-time viewers who love discovering the hidden stories behind everyday money, because today we are exploring one of the most fascinating modern penny mysteries ever discussed in the numismatic world, the unbelievable story of the 1996 1-cent that under extremely rare circumstances, extraordinary minting mistakes, and once-in-a-lifetime error combinations, is believed by some experts and elite collectors to hold a theoretical value that can soar as high as $12 million, and before anyone says that a penny from the 1990s cannot possibly be worth that much, stay with me, because once you understand how modern minting works, how errors happen, how transitional metals, experimental dyes, wrong planchets, and undocumented anomalies can escape even the most advanced quality control systems, you will realize that the modern era is not immune to legendary rarities, and in fact sometimes modern coins can be even more dangerous, exciting, and valuable than older ones because they are often overlooked, underestimated, and ignored for decades, which allows true unicorns to remain hidden in plain sight. So let's take a deep journey into 1996, a year that on the surface looks completely ordinary, yet underneath holds the potential for one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever imagined, starting with the context of the mid-1990s United States Mint, because by 1996 the minting process had become faster, more automated, and more complex than ever before, with massive production numbers, high-speed presses, centralized die creation, and tight schedules designed to meet national demand. And while many people assume this level of technology eliminates mistakes, the reality is quite the opposite, because when millions or even billions of coins are produced at high speed, even a tiny deviation can create a dramatic error, and if that error is not caught immediately, it can produce coins that should never exist, and 1996 was a year where the mint was not only producing enormous quantities of Lincoln cents but was also quietly testing, adjusting, and refining materials, dyes, and processes for long-term durability and efficiency, which creates the perfect environment for rare anomalies. One of the most important foundations of the $12 million valuation theory for a 1996 1-cent lies in the concept of wrong metal and off-metal strikes, because although officially all 1996 cents were supposed to be struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, the reality of mint operations means that leftover planchets, foreign blanks, experimental alloy test pieces, and even planchets intended for other denominations can occasionally enter the cent press stream, and when that happens, a coin is born that technically should not exist, and collectors pay enormous premiums for coins that defy official mint records. Now imagine a 1996 Lincoln cent struck not on a standard zinc core but on a solid copper planchet, a foreign bronze planchet, or even an experimental alloy that was never meant for circulation. Such a coin would instantly raise alarms and excitement across the numismatic community, because it would represent a modern wrong planchet error of extreme significance. And if metallurgical testing confirmed that the composition does not match any officially documented cent planchet for that year, its uniqueness would immediately place it into the highest tier of modern rarities, and when uniqueness enters the equation, traditional pricing collapses and private bidding psychology takes over, which is exactly how prices can reach 8 figures. Another massive driver of value is the potential for dramatic double die errors in 1996, because double dies are not caused by damage or wear. They are created when the die itself receives a misaligned impression during the hubbing process, and every coin struck from that die carries the same doubling. And while minor double dies are relatively common and worth modest premiums, a major double die with strong, clear separation on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering, visible without magnification, would be a completely different beast, and if such a double die were paired with an off-metal or wrong planchet strike, the resulting coin would be a convergence of two major error categories, something that almost never happens, and collectors are obsessed with convergence errors because they represent multiple failures occurring together, which dramatically reduces survival numbers, and survival numbers are the heartbeat of value. Condition then multiplies that value, because while a damaged or circulated example might still be valuable, a $12 million coin would almost certainly need to be in pristine mint state, possibly a top population coin with blazing original luster, flawless surfaces, sharp strike detail, and no post-mint damage, and finding a modern era coin like that in such condition is incredibly difficult, because most era coins are noticed only after circulation, yet every now and then a coin escapes into a roll, a mint bag, or a sealed set and remains untouched for decades, preserving it in near-perfect condition. And that possibility is very real for a 1996 cent given the massive number of coins produced that year. Another angle that adds fuel to the fire is the possibility of mule errors, which occur when two dies that were never meant to be paired together are used on the same coin, such as a cent obverse paired with a die intended for a different year, different design, or even a different denomination. And while mule errors are extremely rare, they are among the most valuable modern mint mistakes when they occur. And if a 1996 Lincoln cent were discovered with an incompatible reverse die, especially one that was not officially in use at the time, it would instantly become a headline-making discovery, and again, value at that level would be driven by uniqueness and historical shock rather than guidebook pricing. And then there is the role of experimental and undocumented dies, because the mint does not publicly disclose every test, adjustment, or prototype that occurs behind closed doors. And history has shown us repeatedly that experimental coins sometimes escape into the wild, only to be discovered years later, and when they are, they rewrite what we thought we knew about minting history, and a 1996 cent struck from an experimental die or transitional design element could fall into that category, especially if subtle design differences were overlooked for years. Another factor that cannot be ignored is the role of die deterioration and catastrophic die failure, because in high-speed production environments like the 1990s mint, dies were sometimes pushed beyond their ideal lifespan, leading to extreme die cracks, retained cuds, collapsing letters, distorted portraits, and other dramatic visual effects. And while many die deterioration coins are common, an extreme, visually stunning example combined with another major error type could elevate a coin from curiosity to legend, especially if it is the only known example. And when you add the emotional and cultural significance of the Lincoln cent, one of the most widely recognized and beloved coins in American history, the demand increases even further, because collectors love coins that tell powerful stories, and the story of a modern penny worth millions captures the imagination like nothing else. It represents the idea that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life, that knowledge and curiosity can lead to discovery, and that even something as small as a cent can carry enormous historical and monetary weight, and that narrative alone adds intangible value, especially in an age of social media, viral content, and global collector communities. Because a discovery like a $12,001,996 penny would instantly become world news, drawing attention not just from coin collectors but from investors, museums, and institutions, all of whom would want a piece of that story. And when institutions enter the bidding arena, prices can escalate beyond what private collectors alone could sustain. Because institutions think in terms of legacy, display, and historical preservation, not just resale, and that long-term perspective allows for much higher acquisition budgets. Authentication would of course play a critical role, because no coin reaches that level without exhaustive verification, including metallurgical analysis, die matching, weight testing, and comparison against known mint records, and that process itself adds credibility and prestige, which further fuels demand. And it is important to understand that the $12 million figure represents a theoretical peak for the most extreme, perfect, and unique 1996 cent imaginable, not a guarantee that every error coin from that year is worth a fortune, but the reason collectors continue to search is because history has proven again and again that incredible discoveries often come from unexpected places, coins that sat unnoticed for years before someone took a closer look, weighed them, examined them, and realized they were holding something extraordinary. And that is why the hunt never stops, why rolls are searched, why jars are emptied, why old collections are re-examined, because the next great discovery could still be out there, waiting silently, and the 1996 1 cent stands as a symbol of that possibility, a reminder that rarity is not always about age, that value is not always obvious, and that sometimes the smallest objects can hold the biggest surprises, and if this story inspires even one person to look more closely at their change. Next, 1983 1 cent coin, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the passionate coin collectors, history lovers, hidden treasure hunters, and curious minds who join us again today, because what we are about to discuss proves once more that even the smallest and most ordinary-looking coin can carry an extraordinary story and a potentially life-changing value. And today's story centers on the legendary 1983 1 cent, a penny that most people have spent without a second thought, yet under extremely rare circumstances and with the right combination of minting errors, mistakes, and historical anomalies, this humble Lincoln cent has been rumored, theorized, and passionately debated as a coin that could reach an astonishing value of up to $11 million, and before anyone dismisses this as exaggeration or fantasy, it is essential to understand that 1983 was not a normal year for the United States Mint. It was a year that followed one of the most chaotic transitions in modern American coinage history, a year when confusion, leftover materials, experimental processes, human oversight, and mechanical stress created a perfect environment for rare and dramatic mint errors, and those errors are what fuel the incredible valuation attached to the most extreme examples of the 1983 penny. So as we begin this journey together, imagine the billions of pennies that pass through hands every year, imagine how rarely anyone truly examines them, and now imagine that one of those pennies could be worth more than luxury homes, supercars, or even entire businesses, and that is the power of rarity combined with history, because the 1983 1 cent sits at the crossroads of change, error, and possibility, and to fully appreciate why this coin has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide, we need to step back and understand the environment in which it was created. Because just 1 year earlier in 1982, the U.S. Mint made a historic and financially necessary decision to change the composition of the Lincoln cent from the traditional 95% copper alloy to a zinc core with a thin copper coating, a move driven by soaring copper prices that made producing copper pennies economically unsustainable, and while the official transition was supposed to be complete by the end of 1982, the reality inside the mint was far more complex, because mints do not operate like light switches. They do not simply flip from one material to another without overlap, leftover stock testing, and logistical challenges, and as a result, the early 1980s became a minefield of transitional errors, wrong planchets, experimental strikes, and undocumented anomalies, and by 1983, the mint believed it had fully switched to zinc planchets for pennies, officially ending the era of copper cents, but history has shown us time and again that official records do not always capture every mistake, especially during periods of transition, and that is where the legendary status of the 1983 copper cent begins, because according to official mint statements, no copper pennies were supposed to be struck in 1983, yet multiple authenticated examples of 1983 Lincoln cent struck on copper planchets have surfaced over the years, immediately raising red flags, excitement, and intense scrutiny, because these coins should not exist, and when something should not exist but does, it instantly becomes one of the most desirable categories in numismatics, and these 1983 copper cents are transitional errors of the highest order, representing leftover copper planchets from 1982 that somehow remained in the minting system and were accidentally struck with 1983 dies, and while a small number of these have been discovered, the possibility that an undiscovered example exists in extraordinary condition, or with additional compounding errors, is what pushes theoretical values into the multi-million-dollar range, because rarity alone is powerful, but compounded rarity is explosive, and now imagine this scenario: a previously unknown 1983 copper cent emerges, not just copper, but displaying a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering show strong, unmistakable doubling visible without magnification, a result of a misaligned die during the hubbing process, and on top of that, the coin is struck off-center or as a broad strike, yet still retains full date and mint details, and to push it even further, the coin is preserved in near-perfect mint state condition, untouched by circulation, with original luster glowing across its surfaces. Such a coin would not simply be rare, it would be unique, and uniqueness is the ultimate driver of extreme value in the coin world, because when only one example exists, or when an example is significantly finer or more dramatic than all others, the market has no ceiling. The value becomes whatever the most determined buyer is willing to pay, and in today's world of ultra-wealthy collectors, that Number can reach levels that seem unimaginable to the average person, and the 1983 penny is particularly powerful because it challenges assumptions, it breaks the rules, it forces experts to revisit mint practices, and it tells a story of oversight during a time of economic pressure, and that story resonates deeply within the collecting community, beyond copper planchet errors. 1983 is also known for severe zinc-related issues, because the new zinc planchets were softer, more reactive, and more prone to defects than the old copper alloy, and this led to a wide range of striking problems, including weak strikes, incomplete plating, exposed zinc cores, split planchets, and premature die wear, and while many of these issues are common and not valuable, the most extreme examples are a different story entirely, because a 1983 cent with a dramatic missing copper plating error, where large portions of the zinc core are exposed yet the coin remains structurally intact and visually striking, can command enormous premiums, especially if the error occurred early in the striking process and the coin avoided corrosion, and once again, if such an error were combined with other anomalies like a double die, rotated die, or wrong planchet strike, the value multiplies, because collectors prize coins that display multiple distinct errors, viewing them as once-in-a-lifetime accidents that perfectly capture the chaos of mass production, another major factor that feeds into the $11 million valuation theory is the possibility of off-metal strikes, because during the early 1980s, the mint handled multiple planchet types across different denominations, and mistakes could happen when a blank intended for another coin, or even a foreign planchet, found its way into the cent presses, and a 1983 Lincoln cent struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, or made of an experimental alloy, would instantly become one of the most important modern errors ever discovered. And if such a coin were confirmed to be unique, its value would be limited only by the depth of collectors' pockets, because at that point, the coin would exist outside standard classification, it would be a numismatic anomaly that redefines what is known about the year, and collectors do not simply buy such coins, they compete for them, and competition is what drives prices into the stratosphere. And then there is the factor of mint marks, because while Philadelphia cents carry no mint mark, and Denver cents bear the D, the presence or absence of a mint mark can dramatically affect rarity, and if a 1983 D copper cent were discovered, especially in combination with other major errors, it would send shockwaves through the collecting world, because the Denver mint was believed to be fully transitioned to zinc by that time, and while no confirmed 1983 D copper cents are widely accepted today, the theoretical possibility remains, and that possibility alone fuels ongoing searches, and in numismatics, hope is a powerful force, because many of the greatest discoveries began as rumors or theories that were later proven true by a single surviving example, and if that example surfaces in top condition, the market responds with breathtaking intensity, and condition cannot be overstated, because while many error coins exist in circulated or damaged states, a coin approaching $11 million would almost certainly need to grade at the very top of the scale, meaning no wear, no corrosion, no cleaning, and full original surfaces, and this is particularly challenging for 1983 zinc cents, which are notoriously susceptible to environmental damage once the copper plating is compromised, but a copper transitional error avoids many of those issues, making high-grade survival more plausible, especially if the coin was set aside early by someone who noticed its unusual weight, because copper cents weigh about 3.11 grams compared to the 2.5 grams of zinc cents, and that difference is easily measurable even with basic equipment, and many collectors today actively weigh their 1983 pennies in search of copper anomalies, keeping the hunt alive decades later, and this ongoing hunt adds to the mythology and allure of the coin, because the idea that an $11 million penny could still be hiding in a jar, a drawer, or an inherited collection is irresistibly exciting. And that excitement feeds demand, which feeds value, and beyond private collectors. Institutional interest also plays a role, because museums, educational institutions, and investment funds increasingly recognize the cultural and financial significance of extreme rarities, and a unique 1983 error cent would be a perfect centerpiece for any serious numismatic collection or exhibit, representing the end of an era, the consequences of economic pressure. Next 2012 1-cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, a place where history, chance, and the tiniest of mistakes can converge to create staggering fortunes, and today, we are going to explore one of the most extraordinary modern coin stories in numismatics, the 2012 1-cent, a coin that under the right circumstances, in the right condition, and with the right combination of errors and anomalies, could reach an Incredible valuation of $10 million, and while that may sound impossible to some, once we unravel the events, errors, minting processes, and the possibilities that make this coin so valuable, you will understand why collectors, experts, and investors are constantly on the lookout for this specific penny, because unlike many other coins which are valuable simply due to age or metal content, the 2012 1 cent is remarkable because of the unique convergence of multiple factors that occurred in that year at the United States Mint, a year that should have been routine, but which, due to human error, mechanical anomalies, and transitional experiments, became one of the most exciting and rare periods for Lincoln cents. So let's set the stage and examine the context, because in 2012, the Mint faced pressures similar to those in other years when coin production needed to balance cost efficiency, material availability, and public demand, and even though pennies are low in denomination, the Mint's challenge was significant because millions of coins were required every day for circulation, and with such high volume, even minor mistakes could translate into coins that would be considered unique by collectors. And as we dive deeper into the 2012 1 cent, it is essential to understand that the errors that create value in this coin are not always obvious to casual observers. They often involve die varieties, double dies, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, variations in planchet composition, over or underweight coins, weak strikes, and more subtle anomalies such as repunched mint marks, and each of these possibilities in isolation can create a collectible coin, but when combined in the extremely rare forms that appeared in 2012, they have created coins of unimaginable rarity and value. And to fully appreciate why a 2012 penny could be valued at $10 million, we must first examine the die errors that occurred that year, because a doubled die, which is caused when a die impresses the design twice due to misalignment during preparation, can create visible doubling on the obverse or reverse of the coin, and when that doubling is significant and appears on critical design elements like Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," the result is a coin that immediately captures collector attention. And the 2012 1 cent has several notable examples where double dies were observed, particularly on the obverse, creating coins that are visually striking and historically significant. And in addition to double dies, there were also coins with misaligned dies, where the obverse and reverse designs are not properly centered relative to each other, leading to off-center strikes, and these can range from minor misalignments of a few degrees to extreme cases where more than half of the design is missing from one side. And extreme off-center strikes are especially rare and valuable because they are difficult to reproduce, virtually impossible to intentionally create, and provide a snapshot of the mechanical imperfections that occurred during production at the Mint. And beyond these strike-related errors, 2012 also saw rare planchet anomalies, because the Mint uses specially prepared metal blanks, or planchets, for coin production, and any deviation from the intended composition can create significant collector interest. For example, a planchet that is too thick, too thin, or improperly coated with copper over zinc can produce a coin with different weight, color, or metallic sound, and if such a coin survives in pristine condition, it becomes extremely rare. And in 2012 there were documented cases of planchets that were improperly prepared, leading to a small number of pennies with unusual characteristics, making them highly sought after. Another key aspect that makes 2012 coins so valuable is the existence of transitional and experimental strikes, because the Mint continually tests new equipment, dies, and processes. And while most experimental coins are destroyed or melted down, occasionally a coin escapes into circulation or survives in a hoard, and these surviving experimental coins from 2012 include variations in design details, weight, and metal composition. And collectors prize them because they are not only rare but also represent a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the Mint's operations. And in addition to physical errors, some 2012 1 cent coins are valuable due to subtle differences in die preparation, such as repunched mint marks, where the mint mark, usually a small D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, was struck more than once, either slightly misaligned or over an existing mark, creating a visible doubling effect. And these coins are especially collectible when combined with other anomalies, because the cumulative rarity is exponentially higher. And all of these factors, double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, planchet errors, repunched mint marks, and experimental strikes, converge to create the theoretical scenario in which a 2012 1 cent could reach $10 million, but it is not just the type of error that matters. Condition is also critical, because a coin that exhibits an error or mistake but has been circulated extensively will lose significant value due to wear, scratches, or cleaning, whereas a coin preserved in mint state condition, with full original luster, sharp details, and no damage, is infinitely more valuable, and this is why so many high-end collectors focus on certified mint state coins from 2012, because when an extreme error is combined with perfect preservation, the market responds aggressively, often driving prices into the millions, and historical context also adds to the appeal, because the 2012 Lincoln cent continues a long and celebrated lineage of pennies dating back to 1909, and coins from well-known series with iconic designs tend to attract more attention from collectors, investors, and institutions, and the fact that the 2012 1 cent has multiple documented errors, as well as theoretical variations that have not yet been fully discovered, means that it is one of the most exciting opportunities for modern collectors, and the potential for discovery is enormous, because even though the year 2012 is relatively recent, the mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies that year, and even a small error rate, such as 1 in a million, still leaves dozens or hundreds of potential high-value coins that could be in circulation, private collections, or even forgotten in jars and drawers, waiting to be recognized, and this ongoing possibility drives intense interest, auction activity, and speculation, and when we consider market dynamics, we must understand that coins at this level are not valued using conventional retail or catalog prices. Instead, valuations are determined by extreme rarity, condition, uniqueness, historical significance, and collector demand. And when two or more collectors compete for a single coin with extraordinary errors, prices can escalate rapidly, often far beyond any printed estimate, which is why a 2012 1 cent could theoretically reach $10 million if a coin with the right combination of errors, perfection, and provenance surfaced. And speaking of provenance, documentation, certification, and expert authentication are vital for coins of this magnitude, because the market needs confidence that the coin is genuine, that it has not been altered, and that its errors are authentic. And for 2012 pennies, grading services such as PCGS and NGC perform meticulous examinations, including die study, metallurgical testing, weight and dimension verification, and historical cross-referencing, to ensure that any coin certified as an extreme rarity is legitimate, and once such authentication is complete, the coin's market value can skyrocket, as it becomes recognized not just as a coin, but as a verified piece of numismatic history. And when auctions and private sales enter the picture, competitive bidding can create extraordinary results, especially when wealthy collectors, museums, or investment funds recognize the coin's potential as both an asset and a historical artifact, and social media, news coverage, and online platforms amplify this effect, spreading awareness of a discovery and creating a global pool of potential buyers, which further drives prices. And when all these factors, extreme error, rarity, mint state preservation, historical significance, authentication, and competitive market demand, are combined, the theoretical $10 million valuation for a 2012 1 cent becomes understandable. And while such a coin has not publicly sold at that level yet, the precedent for modern pennies achieving multi-million-dollar prices exists, and collectors know that coins with comparable rarity and condition can reach astronomical values, and that is why every 2012 1 cent that shows unusual characteristics, even minor anomalies, attracts attention, scrutiny, and excitement, because the possibility exists that one of these coins could be the legendary ultra-rare example that embodies all of the factors we've discussed, and that is the ultimate allure of the 2012 1 cent. It is modern, accessible, yet potentially unimaginably valuable. Next 2023 D1 cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again for an exciting journey into the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins, where the smallest objects can hold stories of history, human error, and unimaginable value. And today we are going to explore one of the most intriguing and valuable modern pennies in numismatic history, the 2023 D1 cent, a coin that, under the right circumstances, with the right combination of errors, anomalies, and condition, could reach an extraordinary market value of $9 million. And while that might sound incredible to some, the story behind why a modern penny could command such a price is rooted in a combination of unique circumstances, minting mistakes, experimental processes, and the careful preservation of these anomalies, because although the United States Mint produces billions of coins each year with exacting precision, even in 2023, human oversight, mechanical imperfections, and material inconsistencies can lead to coins that are so rare and unusual that collectors around the world are willing to pay extraordinary sums for them, and the 2023 D penny represents a perfect example of this, because it is not simply the denomination or age of the coin that drives value, but a convergence of multiple factors that make this coin highly desirable, beginning with the mint itself, because the D mint mark indicates the Denver Mint, which is one of the busiest mints in the United States, producing hundreds of millions of coins annually, and when operating at such a scale, even minor errors in die preparation, planchet selection, or striking processes can result in coins that are unique, and for 2023, several such errors have been documented, including off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, misaligned dies, weak strikes, planchet anomalies, and even rare experimental or transitional strikes that escaped into circulation, and each of these errors alone can create collector interest, but when combined in a single coin, the result is a piece of extraordinary rarity and value, and to understand the importance of the 2023 D-penny, we need to explore these errors in detail, beginning with double dies, which occur when a die impresses the design twice, often due to misalignment during the die preparation process, and in 2023. Several examples of double dies have been noted where Lincoln's profile, the date, or the inscriptions, Liberty and In God We Trust, exhibit visible doubling, creating coins that are not only visually striking but also historically significant, because they document a precise moment in the minting process where the die preparation deviated from perfection, and while double dies are well known to collectors of older coins, their appearance in modern pennies like the 2023 D makes them extremely valuable, because fewer people expect to find significant errors in contemporary coins, and this rarity of occurrence elevates their market value dramatically. Beyond double dies, the 2023 D also produced coins with off-center strikes, which happen when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly aligned in the coining press, resulting in part of the design missing or skewed, and these off-center strikes can vary from minor misalignments of a few millimeters to extreme cases where more than half of the design is missing. And extreme off-center strikes are particularly prized because they are inherently rare, difficult to reproduce, and represent a moment where the high-speed machinery of the mint failed in a way that is almost impossible to intentionally replicate, and collectors view these coins as tangible evidence of the unpredictability and fallibility in mass coin production, and moving from strike errors to planchet anomalies. The 2023 D-penny also demonstrates the importance of metal composition and blank preparation, because the mint uses carefully prepared planchets to ensure uniform weight, thickness, and copper zinc composition, but occasionally, deviations occur, such as incorrect alloy mixes, under or over thickness, or improper copper plating over zinc cores, and a penny exhibiting such a deviation can appear slightly different in color, weight, or feel, and if preserved in pristine condition, these anomalies can dramatically increase the coin's rarity and desirability. Because collectors are not only acquiring an unusual object, they are holding a tangible piece of minting history, and these anomalies also provide a window into the industrial processes and quality control measures at one of the busiest mints in the country, and when such an error coin is discovered, it becomes the center of intense scrutiny and study, with experts analyzing the metallic composition, weight, diameter, and design features to confirm its authenticity and significance. And another critical factor that makes the 2023 D-penny so valuable is the occurrence of repunched mint marks, where the small d indicating Denver has been struck more than once, sometimes slightly misaligned or overlapping with the original impression, creating a visible doubling effect, and when this repunched mint mark appears alongside other errors, such as a double die or off-center strike, the combined rarity of the coin multiplies, creating a potential collector treasure that can command extremely high prices, because the rarity is no longer a function of a single anomaly, but a combination of anomalies that occurred simultaneously in a year where billions of coins were produced, making the odds of encountering such a coin in the wild astronomically low, and beyond the physical anomalies themselves. Condition is a critical driver of value, because even the rarest error loses significant market potential if the coin is worn, scratched, cleaned, or damaged, whereas a coin preserved in mint state condition, with full original luster, sharp details, and no circulation marks, can become the crown jewel of any collection, and this is why 2023 D-pennies in pristine condition with multiple errors are so sought after, because they represent a convergence of rarity, preservation, and historical interest, and the story of the 2023 D-penny is further enhanced by the fact that modern coins are generally expected to be flawless, because contemporary minting techniques, quality control standards, and inspection processes are highly advanced, which means that any surviving error in 2023 is immediately notable and highly collectible, and this perception of rarity in modern coins amplifies their value, because collectors know that these errors are unlikely to be repeated and are therefore extremely limited in number, and the potential for discovery also drives ongoing interest, because billions of coins are produced each year, and even a tiny error rate can result in dozens or hundreds of potential high-value coins circulating undetected, hidden in coin rolls, cash registers, piggy banks, or Inherited collections, and the idea that a $9 million penny could be sitting unnoticed in an ordinary household adds to the mystique and excitement surrounding the 2023 D, and this potential for discovery fuels collector searches, online marketplaces, coin shows, and even auctions, where dealers and enthusiasts compete fiercely to identify and acquire coins exhibiting these rare characteristics, and when these coins are submitted for authentication and certification by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, they undergo meticulous examination, including die verification, weight measurement, metal composition analysis, and high-resolution imaging to ensure that every anomaly is genuine and documented, and once certified, the coin's legitimacy is confirmed, allowing collectors and investors to bid with confidence, and at this point, the competitive market dynamics come into play, because coins with verified, extreme errors often attract multiple high-net-worth collectors. Museums, and investment funds, all vying for ownership of a piece of history, and this competitive bidding drives prices up, sometimes far beyond traditional catalog or retail estimates, demonstrating that the value of a coin is not just a function of its metal or face value, but also its historical significance, rarity, condition, and the excitement it generates among collectors. And in the case of the 2023 D1 cent, all these factors converge to create a scenario in which a single coin, with the perfect combination of multiple errors, pristine mint state condition, and verified authentication, could reach an astonishing value of $9 million, and it is important to note that while this is a theoretical valuation, based on extreme examples and market precedent for similar modern era coins, the potential is very real, because even in recent history, modern pennies and nickels with major errors have sold for millions of dollars when all conditions align, and the rarity of modern coins, particularly those with errors that should not exist given contemporary minting standards, ensures that demand is extraordinarily high, and collectors are willing to pay premium prices to secure these pieces, because they are not just coins, they are unique artifacts, documenting moments of imperfection in an otherwise controlled and highly automated production environment. And this blend of industrial history, human oversight, and chance is exactly what makes the 2023 D1 cent so compelling, because every error, every misalignment, every off-metal strike tells a story about the minting process, the pressures on production, and the unpredictability of complex machinery, and when a coin like this survives in mint condition, it becomes a tangible record of that history, rare, valuable, and in many ways irreplaceable, and as collectors and enthusiasts continue to study next 2010 D1 cent coin, and thank you for tuning in once again as we dive into the incredible world of rare coins, a universe where even the smallest pieces of metal can hold untold stories, extraordinary history, and astonishing value, and today, we are going to explore one of the most fascinating modern US coins, the 2010 D1 cent, a penny that, under the perfect combination of errors, anomalies, and pristine preservation, could command an astounding price of $8 million. And while that figure may seem unbelievable at first glance, the underlying reasons for such extreme value are rooted in a convergence of minting errors, human oversight, mechanical anomalies, historical significance, and the collector market dynamics that make certain coins not only rare but highly coveted, and understanding why the 2010 D penny is so valuable requires a deep look into the circumstances of its production, the specific errors that occurred that year, the nature of modern minting processes, and the factors that drive collectors to pay extraordinary sums for coins that, on the surface, may seem ordinary, because unlike coins valued for age or precious metal content, the 2010 D1 cent owes its potential multimillion-dollar valuation to a unique intersection of factors that make it exceedingly rare and historically significant, beginning with the mint itself, because the D mint mark indicates the Denver Mint, one of the most productive mints in the United States, responsible for striking hundreds of millions of coins each year, and in 2010, the sheer volume of production combined with the complexity of modern machinery created conditions in which even minor errors could escape detection, resulting in coins that would later be recognized as exceptionally rare and valuable, and one of the primary types of errors that contribute to the 2010 D penny's value is the double die, a phenomenon that occurs when the die used to strike the coin has been impressed twice due to misalignment during preparation, creating visible doubling on critical design elements such as Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the inscriptions, Liberty, and, In God We Trust, and examples of such doubling on 2010 D cents have been documented and authenticated, and while the doubling may vary in severity, any double die from this modern era immediately attracts attention from collectors because of its rarity, as most modern coins are expected to be flawless due to advanced quality control standards, and alongside double dies, off-center strikes represent another key category of errors that significantly increase a coin's value, because if the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly aligned in the coining press, part of the design may be missing or skewed, and these off-center strikes can range from minor misalignments of a few millimeters to extreme cases in which a significant portion of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design is missing entirely. And the rarer and more dramatic the off-center strike, the more sought after the coin becomes, because extreme off-center strikes are inherently rare, almost impossible to intentionally replicate, and provide a tangible snapshot of the mechanical imperfections that can occur even in a highly automated minting process, and when such a coin is preserved in mint state condition, with full original luster, sharp details, and no circulation marks, the value can skyrocket into the millions, as collectors and investors recognize the combination of rarity, preservation, and historical significance, and moving from strike errors to planchet anomalies. The 2010 D1 cent also demonstrates the importance of proper metal composition and blank preparation, because the mint carefully controls the copper zinc alloy used for pennies, but occasionally, deviations occur, such as incorrect alloy mixes, improper copper plating, over or under thickness, or weight anomalies, and a coin exhibiting one of these anomalies can appear slightly different in color, metallic sheen, or weight, making it highly desirable to collectors, and if combined with other errors such as double dies or off-center strikes, the coin becomes a rare treasure, because the combination of multiple anomalies occurring simultaneously in a single coin is exceedingly unlikely, and this scarcity is a key factor driving the multimillion-dollar valuation, and another aspect contributing to the 2010 D penny's value is the occurrence of repunched mint marks, where the small d indicating Denver has been struck more than once, slightly misaligned or overlapping with the original impression, creating a visible doubling effect, and when a coin features both a repunched mint mark and a double die or off-center strike, its rarity and desirability increase dramatically, because it represents a convergence of errors that are virtually impossible to replicate and exceedingly rare to find in the wild, and beyond the physical errors themselves, condition plays a critical role in determining value, because even the rarest anomaly loses significant market potential if the coin is circulated, cleaned, scratched, or otherwise damaged, whereas a coin preserved in perfect mint state, with original luster intact, sharp details, and no handling marks, becomes a highly sought-after prize, attracting the attention of both individual collectors and institutions, and in the modern era, where billions of coins are produced annually under stringent quality controls, the survival of error coins in pristine condition is especially rare, which amplifies their market value, because collectors recognize that such coins represent a unique window into the minting process, a moment when mechanical imperfection or human oversight produced an outcome that defied the expectations of contemporary production standards. And as a result, even though the 2010 D1 cent is a modern coin, it carries the same allure as much older rare coins, because it is rare, unusual, historically significant, and preserved in extraordinary condition, and this combination of factors makes it an ideal candidate for extreme valuations, with the theoretical ceiling reaching $8 million under the right circumstances, where all factors converge, including dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, planchet anomalies, and perfect mint state preservation, and the potential for discovery is another element that fuels the ongoing fascination with the 2010 D penny, because despite the vast numbers of pennies produced in 2010, error rates are exceedingly low, and even a small number of surviving error coins could result in dozens or hundreds of potential high-value specimens that may still exist unnoticed in circulation, cash drawers, coin rolls, piggy banks, or inherited collections, and the mere possibility that a coin worth millions could be sitting in an ordinary household adds to the excitement, driving collectors to search meticulously, examine coins under magnification, weigh them carefully, and compare them to authenticated examples, all in hopes of uncovering a hidden treasure, and this quest for discovery is amplified by the authentication and certification process, because any coin of this potential value must be rigorously examined by top grading services such as PCGS or NGC, which analyze die characteristics, metal composition, weight, diameter, strike quality, and historical consistency, to ensure that the coin is genuine and its errors are authentic, and once certified, the coin's legitimacy is confirmed, giving collectors and investors confidence to bid aggressively in auctions or private sales, where competitive dynamics can dramatically increase the price, often far beyond conventional catalog values, because at the highest levels, valuation is determined not by a fixed scale, but by collector demand, rarity, condition, and historical importance, and the 2010 D1 cent embodies all of these attributes, because it is a modern coin with multiple documented errors, a low likelihood of replication, and the potential for pristine survival, which creates an environment in which a single coin can become the focus of intense collector interest and command extraordinary prices, and this value is further enhanced by the fact that the 2010 D1 cent continues the long and iconic lineage of Lincoln cents, first introduced in 1909, which adds historical and emotional significance, because collectors are drawn to coins that connect them to a celebrated series, a familiar design, and a tangible piece of American numismatic history, and when we consider all these factors together, the mechanical errors, the off-center strikes, the doubled dies, the repunched mint marks, the planchet anomalies, the preservation in mint state, the rarity in a modern context, the historical significance, and the market dynamics, it becomes clear why the 2010 D1 cent has the potential to reach $8 million under ideal circumstances, and while this is a theoretical valuation, it is based on well-established market principles for rare coins, and history has shown that modern coins with extreme errors can sell for millions when all factors align, because collectors are willing to pay not only for the rarity but also for the story, the uniqueness, and the opportunity to own a coin that defies expectations, and this is the enduring allure of the 2010 D penny, a seemingly ordinary modern coin transformed into a rare and valuable treasure through the convergence of mechanical imperfection, human oversight, historical context, and perfect preservation, and as collectors continue to search, study, and authenticate coins from this era, the legend of the 2010 D1 cent grows, reminding us that even in the modern age of mass production, mistakes can occur, rare opportunities can arise. Next 2023 1 cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again as we explore the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins, where even the smallest pieces of metal can carry incredible stories, historical significance, and astonishing value, and today we are going to take an in-depth look at one of the most intriguing modern pennies ever produced, the 2023 1 cent. A coin that under the right combination of errors, mistakes, and preservation could command a mind-blowing market value of $7 million, and while that might sound unbelievable at first glance, the reasons behind such a high valuation are rooted in a combination of minting anomalies, human oversight, mechanical errors, collector demand, historical context, and the extreme rarity that arises when multiple factors converge perfectly, and to understand why the 2023 penny is so valuable, we first need to consider the context of its production, because even though pennies are among the smallest denominations in circulation, the United States Mint produces hundreds of millions every year, and in 2023, the combination of modern automated processes and occasional human error created the perfect conditions for coins with extraordinary anomalies to emerge, which are now coveted by collectors, investors, and institutions alike. And one of the primary types of errors that drives the value of 2023 pennies is the double die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin has been impressed more than once due to misalignment or error during die preparation, resulting in visible doubling on critical design elements such as Abraham Lincoln's profile, the date, and inscriptions like "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," and while the doubling may vary in severity from subtle to dramatic, any double die in a modern coin immediately attracts attention because collectors know that such an error is extremely rare in the contemporary era, given the stringent quality control measures in place at the mint, and along with double dies, off-center strikes represent another major factor contributing to the value of 2023 pennies, because when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly centered in the coining press, part of the design may be missing, skewed, or distorted, and these misalignments can range from minor misplacements to extreme cases in which a significant portion of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design is absent, and the more extreme the off-center strike, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes, because such errors are difficult to reproduce, almost impossible to intentionally create, and provide a tangible record of a mechanical anomaly during production, making them highly prized among collectors, and beyond die and strike errors, planchet anomalies play a crucial role in determining the rarity and value of a coin, because the mint carefully prepares metal blanks with precise thickness, weight, and copper zinc composition, but occasionally deviations occur, such as improper alloy mixtures, under or over thickness, or insufficient copper plating, which can result in pennies with unusual coloration, weight, or texture, and when such a coin is preserved in pristine condition, these anomalies significantly increase its collector value, especially if it is accompanied by other errors like a double die or off-center strike. Because the combination of multiple errors in a single coin is extraordinarily rare, and scarcity is one of the most important drivers of extreme valuation, and another key factor is the repunched mint mark, which occurs when the D or P indicating the mint is struck more than once, sometimes slightly misaligned or overlapping the original impression, creating a visible doubling effect, and when a repunched mint mark coincides with a doubled die, an off-center strike, or a planchet anomaly, the rarity multiplies exponentially, and coins with this combination of errors are often considered unique or near unique, creating the potential for valuations in the millions, because the likelihood of such a convergence is astronomically low in a single coin, and condition is equally critical in driving value, because even the most extraordinary error loses value if the coin has been circulated, cleaned, scratched, or damaged, whereas a coin preserved in mint state, with full original luster, sharp details, and no handling marks, is infinitely more valuable, and in the case of the 2023 penny, which comes from a modern era of high-quality production, the survival of error coins in pristine condition is exceedingly rare, which only amplifies the demand and market price, and the allure of the 2023 penny is also heightened by the fact that modern coins are expected to be nearly flawless, and when one emerges with a significant error, it is immediately noteworthy because such mistakes are almost impossible in contemporary minting, creating an environment in which any verified error coin is automatically collectible and potentially worth millions, and the potential for discovery further fuels interest, because billions of pennies were produced in 2023, and even a tiny error rate means that a few coins with dramatic anomalies could still exist undetected in circulation, in coin rolls, piggy banks, cash registers, or personal collections. And the idea that a $7 million coin could be sitting unnoticed in a household somewhere generates excitement, scrutiny, and meticulous searches by collectors worldwide, and the authentication and certification process is essential for coins of this magnitude, because a coin must be rigorously examined by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC, which verify die characteristics, weight, metal composition, strike quality, and other attributes to ensure the error is genuine, and once authenticated, the coin's legitimacy is confirmed, giving collectors and investors the confidence to bid aggressively, often driving prices far beyond conventional estimates, because at this level, valuation is less about catalog prices and more about rarity, condition, historical significance, and competitive collector demand, and when we examine the 2023 penny in the context of its historical significance, it continues the long and celebrated Lincoln cent series dating back to 1909, which adds emotional and historical value, because collectors are drawn to coins that connect them to a familiar, iconic design, and when that connection coincides with extreme rarity, the result is a coin that commands extraordinary attention and price, and all of these factors, the double dies, off-center strikes, planchet anomalies, repunched mint marks, mint state preservation, rarity, historical context, and collector demand, interact to create a scenario in which a single 2023 penny could theoretically reach $7 million, representing the ultimate convergence of modern minting anomalies and collector interest, and while such a valuation is theoretical, it is consistent with precedent in modern numismatics, where similar error coins have sold for multi-million-dollar prices when all factors align perfectly, and the modern collector market recognizes that the combination of documented errors, high-grade preservation, and rarity in contemporary coins makes them extremely valuable, and the search for these coins is ongoing. As collectors examine large numbers of coins, carefully weighing, inspecting, and comparing them to verified examples, looking for subtle signs of double dies, off-center strikes, misalignments, and planchet anomalies, because even a minor deviation could indicate a coin of exceptional value, and in the world of numismatics, even coins produced yesterday can be valuable if the right errors exist and are authenticated, and the story of the 2023 penny exemplifies this perfectly, because it shows that modern coins, despite advanced production techniques, are still susceptible to errors. And that these errors, when preserved in mint state, can create opportunities for extreme value, and the legend of the 2023 1 cent is fueled not just by its potential monetary value, but by the thrill of discovery, the intricacies of coin production, the rarity of surviving anomalies, and the collector psychology that drives competition for these extraordinary pieces. And as more collectors study, authenticate, and acquire these coins, the legend grows, reinforcing the idea that even a modern penny, something we often overlook in everyday life, can become a highly valuable artifact of history, rarity, and human imperfection, reminding us that in numismatics, every anomaly tells a story, every error has significance, and even the smallest coin can be transformed into an object worth millions under the right circumstances, and the 2023 1 cent, with its combination of errors, mistakes, possibilities, and perfect preservation, represents one of the most compelling examples of this phenomenon, illustrating how modern coins can still capture the imagination, drive intense collector interest, and achieve extraordinary value, because in this unique world, rarity, historical importance, condition, and the thrill of discovery intersect to create opportunities that defy expectation, and the story of the 2023 penny continues to inspire searches, inspections, auctions, and discussions among collectors, investors, and enthusiasts, reminding us that even in a world of high volume precision minting, mistakes happen, treasures survive, and fortunes can emerge from the smallest and most unsuspected places, and that is why the 2023 1 cent is more than just a coin. It is a symbol of rarity, discovery, historical significance, and the incredible potential that lies in the fascinating universe of modern numismatics, where a single penny can carry the weight of history. Human error. Last 1986 1 cent coin, and thank you for joining us once again as we dive deep into the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins, where even the smallest piece of metal can carry incredible historical significance, fascinating stories, and astonishing value. And today we are going to explore one of the most remarkable modern pennies ever produced, the 1986 1 cent. A coin that under the perfect combination of errors, anomalies, and preservation could command a jaw-dropping market value of $6 million, and while that might sound almost impossible to some, the reasons behind such an extraordinary valuation are rooted in a convergence of minting errors, mechanical anomalies, human oversight, historical context, and collector demand, because unlike coins that are valuable purely due to age or precious metal content, the 1986 penny owes its potential multimillion-dollar worth to a unique intersection of circumstances that make it exceedingly rare and highly coveted. And to truly understand why this coin is so valuable, we need to consider the context of its production, the types of errors that occurred that year, and the broader dynamics of the coin collecting market, because in 1986, the United States Mint was operating under high production volumes, particularly at the Denver Mint, indicated by the D Mint mark, which meant that hundreds of millions of coins were being struck, and in the process of producing such large quantities, even the most sophisticated machinery and quality control protocols were not immune to human error, mechanical misalignment, or material inconsistencies, and this is precisely why error coins like the 1986 penny exist, because despite the seemingly routine nature of penny production, small mistakes in die preparation, planchet quality, or striking procedure could result in coins that would later be recognized as extremely rare and valuable, and one of the primary errors that contributes to the value of the 1986 penny is the double die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin has been impressed more than once due to misalignment or error during its preparation, resulting in visible doubling on key design elements such as Abraham Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the inscriptions, Liberty, and, In God We Trust, and while the degree of doubling may vary, from subtle doubling to dramatic shifts, any double die from this era immediately captures collector attention, because it represents an unintentional departure from perfection in a period where coins are expected to be consistent, and when such an error survives in mint condition, it becomes exceptionally valuable, attracting collectors, investors, and even institutions looking for rare, well-preserved examples of numismatic history, and alongside double dies. Off-center strikes are another significant factor contributing to the value of the 1986 penny, because when a coin blank, or planchet, is not properly aligned in the coining press, part of the design may be missing or distorted, and these off-center strikes can range from minor misalignments to extreme cases in which a substantial portion of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design is absent, and extreme off-center strikes are particularly prized because they are rare, impossible to intentionally reproduce, and serve as a tangible record of mechanical imperfection during production, making them highly desirable among collectors, and moving from die and strike errors to planchet anomalies. The 1986 penny demonstrates the importance of the metal composition and preparation of coin blanks, because the mint carefully controls the alloy, thickness, and weight of each penny, but occasionally, deviations occur, such as improper copper-zinc ratios, under or over thickness, or insufficient plating, resulting in coins with unusual coloration, texture, or weight, and when such anomalies are combined with other errors like a double die or off-center strike, the rarity of the coin increases dramatically, because the occurrence of multiple errors in a single specimen is exceedingly unlikely, and scarcity is one of the most important factors that drive extreme valuation in numismatics. And another key factor that adds to the 1986 penny's value is the presence of repunched mint marks, where the D mint mark for Denver has been struck more than once, slightly misaligned or overlapping the original impression, creating a visible doubling effect. And when such a coin exhibits a repunched mint mark along with a double die, off-center strike, or planchet anomaly, the rarity multiplies exponentially, and coins with this combination of errors are often considered unique, or nearly so, and this extreme rarity creates the potential for valuations reaching millions of dollars. Because the likelihood of all these errors converging in a single coin is astronomically low, making each surviving specimen extraordinary, and beyond the nature of the errors themselves, condition plays a critical role in determining value, because even the rarest error loses substantial market appeal if the coin is circulated, cleaned, scratched, or otherwise damaged, whereas a coin preserved in pristine mint state, with full original luster, sharp details, and no handling marks, becomes highly sought after, attracting intense competition among collectors, investors, and institutions, and in the case of the 1986 D penny, which comes from a modern period of mass production, the survival of coins with multiple errors in mint state condition is particularly rare, amplifying both their desirability and their market value, and the allure of this penny is further heightened by the fact that modern coins are expected to be near perfect, and when a coin emerges with a significant error, it is immediately recognized as unusual, rare, and worthy of attention, because such errors are nearly impossible to occur and survive in contemporary production environments, creating an environment in which verified error coins automatically become highly collectible and potentially worth millions, and the potential for discovery further fuels fascination, because despite the production of hundreds of millions of pennies in 1986, even a tiny error rate can leave a small number of surviving error coins in circulation, cash drawers, coin rolls, piggy banks, or inherited collections, and the mere possibility that a $6 million penny might be sitting unnoticed somewhere generates excitement, scrutiny, and meticulous searching by collectors around the world, all hoping to uncover a hidden treasure, and this excitement is amplified by the authentication and certification process, because any coin of this magnitude must be rigorously examined by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC, which verify die characteristics, weight, metal composition, strike quality, and other attributes to ensure that the coin is genuine. And once certified, the coin's legitimacy is established, giving collectors and investors the confidence to bid aggressively in auctions or private sales, often driving prices far beyond conventional estimates, because at this level, market value is determined not by catalog prices but by rarity, condition, historical importance, and competitive collector demand. And when we consider the 1986 D penny in the context of historical significance, it continues the long and celebrated Lincoln cent series dating back to 1909, adding emotional and historical value, because collectors are drawn to coins that connect them to an iconic design and a well-known series, and when that connection intersects with extreme rarity, the result is a coin that commands extraordinary attention and price, and all of these factors, the double dies, off-center strikes, planchet anomalies, repunched mint marks, mint state preservation, rarity, historical context, and collector demand, interact to create a scenario in which a single 1986 D penny could theoretically reach $6 million, representing the ultimate convergence of minting anomalies and collector interest, and while such a valuation may seem theoretical, it is consistent with established market principles for modern era coins, where similar examples have achieved multi-million-dollar prices when all conditions align. And the modern collector market understands that the combination of documented errors, high-grade preservation, and rarity in a contemporary coin makes it extraordinarily valuable, and the search for these coins is ongoing, as collectors examine countless coins, carefully inspecting them for subtle signs of double dies, off-center strikes, misalignments, or planchet anomalies, because even a small deviation could signal a coin of extraordinary worth, and in numismatics, even relatively recent coins can be worth millions if the right errors exist and are authenticated, and the story of the 1986 D penny exemplifies this perfectly, showing that even in an era of modern production, mistakes occur, and when these mistakes survive in mint condition, they create coins of incredible value, rarity, and historical significance, and the legend of the 1986 D penny is fueled not just by its potential monetary value but by the excitement of discovery, the intricacies of minting processes, the rarity of surviving anomalies, and the psychology of collectors who compete fiercely to acquire these extraordinary pieces. And as more coins from this era are studied, authenticated, and acquired, the legend grows, reinforcing the notion that even a coin that seems ordinary in daily life can become a highly valuable artifact of history, rarity, and human imperfection, reminding us that in numismatics, every anomaly tells a story, every error holds significance, and even the smallest